The message came at 3 in the morning. President Una Park was sleeping in her private quarters when the lights turned on by themselves. A soft alarm filled the room. She opened her eyes and saw the holographic display floating above her bed. The symbol of the Galactic Assembly glowed in cold blue light. She sat up slowly. In her 20 years of political life, she had received many messages from the Assembly. None of them had ever been good news. "Display message," she said. The hologram changed. A face appeared. It belonged to High Arbiter Velon of the Tassari Dominion. His gray skin looked like stone. His 4 yellow eyes stared without blinking. His voice was deep and carried the weight of someone who had never been told no. "President of the Human Federation," Velon said. "You are summoned to appear before the Council of 12. The matter concerns the future of your species. You will arrive at Station Orionis within 15 standard days. Failure to appear will be considered an act of defiance against galactic law." The message ended. The room went dark again. Una Park did not go back to sleep. She sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking. She had known this day would come. For 300 years, humanity had lived under the shadow of the elder races. They called humans a probationary species. This meant that humans had no voice in galactic politics. They paid tribute to older civilizations. They followed rules they did not help create. They smiled and bowed while alien ambassadors looked at them like they were clever pets. Una had spent her whole career fighting against this system. She had become president on a simple promise. Humanity would not kneel forever. Now the assembly was calling, and she knew exactly why. 1 hour later, she sat in the war room beneath the presidential palace in New Seoul. The walls were covered with screens, showing star maps and fleet positions. Around the table sat the people she trusted most in the universe. Admiral Taeho Kang was the first to speak. He was an old man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had commanded human fleets for 40 years. "It is a trap. On," he said. "The containment doctrine. Our spies have been hearing about it for months. They want to lock us inside the Sol system. They want to take our colonies and destroy our ships." Intelligence Officer Hana Lim nodded. She was young, barely 30, but her mind was sharper than anyone in the room. "Admiral Kang is correct. The vote is already decided. 11 species will vote yes. They have been planning this for years. They are afraid of us." "Afraid?" General Do-hun Shin laughed without humor. He was a big man with a scar across his face. "We have 37 warships. The Tassari alone have 3,000. What is there to fear?" Our growth," Hana said. 300 years ago, we discovered faster than light travel. Since then, we have colonized 17 star systems. We have increased our population to 50 billion. We have developed weapons that match their technology. In galactic terms, this is like a child growing into a giant overnight. They are not afraid of what we are. They are afraid of what we will become. Una listened to all of this in silence. Finally, she spoke. "What happens if we do not go?" "War," Admiral Kang said simply. "They will say we broke galactic law. They will send their fleets. We cannot win against all of them. And if we go, we lose everything without a fight. They will vote. We will be contained. Our children will grow up in a prison." Ambassador Suji Moon had been quiet until now. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but those eyes hid a mind that understood power better than anyone. "There is a third option," she said. Everyone looked at her. "We go," Suji continued. "We listen to their judgment. And then, we show them that humanity is not what they think we are." "How?" General Shin asked. Suji smiled. "By being exactly what they fear." Una Park stood up. She walked to the largest screen on the wall. It showed Earth, blue, and green, floating in the blackness of space. Behind it, she could see the moon, and beyond that, the red dot of Mars. Her home, her people, everything she had sworn to protect. 15 years ago, she said quietly, I made a decision. I told Fleet Admiral Minho Baek to begin a secret project. We called it the Sleeping Wolf Protocol. We built ships in hidden places. We trained soldiers in secret bases. We created weapons that the Assembly has never seen. We did this because I knew that one day they would try to destroy us. Not because we did anything wrong, but because we refused to stay small. She turned to face her advisors. The Assembly expects a weak president to come begging for mercy. They expect us to accept their chains with grateful tears. They are wrong. She pressed a button on the table. A new image appeared on the screen. It was Fleet Admiral Minho Baek, a man with silver hair and calm eyes. He was standing on the bridge of a massive warship that officially did not exist. Admiral Baek, Yuna said, prepare the wolves, but do not wake them yet. Wait for my signal. Understood, President Park, Minho said. We have been waiting for this day. The packs are ready. The transmission ended. Yuna looked around the room. We are going to Station Orionis. We are going to listen to their speeches and their insults. And when they think they have won, we are going to teach them something they have forgotten. End quote. What is that? Hana asked. Yuna Park's eyes were hard as steel. That the quiet ones are always the most dangerous. 3 days later, the diplomatic cruiser Resolve left Earth orbit. On board were 12 people who looked like peaceful ambassadors. They wore fine clothes and carried no visible weapons. They smiled politely at the alien escorts who met them at the edge of human space. No one noticed that Ambassador Suji Moon's jewelry was actually a communication device that could hack any system in the galaxy. No one noticed that General Do-Hoon Shin's ceremonial cane contained a plasma rifle. No one noticed that Hana Lim had already planted spy programs in half the stations they passed. And no one noticed the cold fire burning in President Yuna Park's eyes. The debate was about to begin, and humanity was ready to end it. Station Orionis was the largest structure ever built by living beings. It was a ring of metal and glass that floated in the empty space between 3 dying stars. The station was so big that it had its own weather. Clouds formed inside its hollow center. Rain fell on artificial forests. Rivers flowed through parks, where 1,000 different species walked together. But the humans on the diplomatic cruiser Resolve did not see the beauty. They only saw the chains. President Yuna Park stood at the window of her guest quarters and watched the station grow larger. Every species that joined the Galactic Assembly had to come here eventually. They came to bow. They came to accept their place in the hierarchy. The elder races sat at the top. Everyone else fought for the scraps below. The council will see you in 2 hours, said the Tassari escort. He was tall and gray, with 4 arms and 4 eyes that looked at Yuna like she was an insect. You will speak only when spoken to. You will not cross the boundary line. You will address the arbiter with proper respect. Of course, Yuna said with a polite smile. We are honored to be here. 3 Frun. We are honored to be here. The Tassari made a sound that might have been laughter. Then, he left. Admiral Teho Kang stepped forward. I want to kill him, he said quietly. Not yet, Yuna replied. Let them think we are weak. Let them enjoy their victory. It will make the fall much harder. 2 hours later, the human delegation entered the council chamber. The room was designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. 12 massive alcoves rose along the walls, each one holding the representative of an elder species. They sat on thrones made of materials that humans could not name. Their eyes looked down with contempt that had been practiced for thousands of years. In the center of the room was a small circle of light. This was where the accused stood. This was where humanity would hear its fate. Yuna walked into the light. Her delegation stood behind her. General Do-Hoon Shin kept his hand close to his ceremonial cane. Ambassador Suji Moon touched her necklace. Hana Lim's eyes moved constantly, recording everything. High Arbiter Velan spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. This session of the Council of 12 is now open. We gather to discuss the matter of the human species and their continued threat to galactic stability. Yuna said nothing. She had been told to stay silent. For now, she would play their game. The Tassari representative stood. Humans have been a probationary species for 300 years. In that time, they have shown a disturbing pattern of aggressive expansion. They have colonized 17 star systems without proper authorization. They have built military vessels beyond their allowed quota. They have refused to share their technological developments with the Assembly. The Morath representative rose next. Breenock was his name. He had 6 limbs and a face that looked like melted wax. We have evidence, he said, that humans are preparing for war. Our scouts have detected unusual activity in their outer colonies. They are hiding something. One by one, the elder species spoke. The Drassic called humans a disease that must be contained before it spreads. The Faluri said that humans breed like insects and think like predators. Even the peaceful Helion, who rarely spoke at all, said that the rapid growth of humanity poses questions that must be answered. Through all of this, Yuna Park stood in silence. Her face showed nothing. Her hands did not shake. She breathed slowly and listened to every word. Finally, High Arbiter Velan raised his 4 arms. The Council has heard the evidence. We will now vote on Resolution 7749, known as the Containment Doctrine. This resolution will require humanity to withdraw all colonies outside the Sol system. All human military vessels will be decommissioned. Human travel beyond their home system will require Assembly approval. He paused and looked down at Yuna. President Park, do you have anything to say before we vote? Yuna opened her mouth to speak. Your words will be recorded. Velan interrupted. But they will not change the outcome. This is a formality. Nothing more. Behind her, General Shin gripped his cane so hard that his knuckles turned white. Admiral Kang's jaw tightened. But Yuna simply nodded. I understand, she said softly. Please, continue. The vote began. The Tassari voted yes. The Morath voted yes. The Drassic, the Faluri, the Korvan, the Thessan, the Bryn, the Veldari, the Ossic, and the Nexar all voted yes. The Helion, after a long pause, abstained. The 12th seat, which had once belonged to the Venori, was empty. 11 votes in favor, Velan announced. 1 abstention. The containment doctrine passes. He turned his 4 eyes toward Yuna. There was satisfaction in his gaze. Triumph. He had waited a long time for this moment. 1-3. Mana, 1-3. 1-3. 1-3. President Park, he said. Your species will comply with this resolution. Your fleets will return to Sol within 30 standard days. Any resistance will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Assembly. You are dismissed. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye was on Yuna, waiting for her to bow, to beg, to accept defeat with the quiet shame that young species always showed. But Yuna did not bow. Instead, she looked up at the empty seat. The Venori seat. She knew the history. 100,000 years ago, the Venori had been a peaceful species who refused to obey the Tassari. The Tassari had burned their home world. They had hunted the survivors across the galaxy. They had erased an entire civilization from existence, and then they had kept the seat empty as a warning to others. Yuna took a deep breath. She thought of her grandmother, who had told her stories about the old Earth before the aliens came. She thought of her daughter, who dreamed of seeing distant stars. She thought of the 50 billion humans who were counting on her to protect their future. She stepped forward. Her foot crossed the boundary line. The chamber erupted in gasps. Guards reached for their weapons. High Arbiter Velen rose from his throne with fury in his eyes. "You dare," he began. "Yes," President Yuna Park said, her voice calm and clear. And then she began to speak, not as a defeated leader begging for mercy, but as someone who had come to deliver a message that the galaxy would never forget. The debate was about to change. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. President Yuna Park stood beyond the boundary line, in the sacred space where no young species had ever dared to walk. The guards had frozen in place, unsure what to do. High Arbiter Velen stared at her, with all four eyes wide with shock. For 300 years, every young species had followed the rules. They had stayed inside the circle of light. They had accepted their judgments, with quiet obedience. They had thanked the elder races for their wisdom, even as those same races stripped away their freedom. No one had ever simply stepped forward and said no. "Guards," Velon commanded, his voice shaking with anger. "Remove this creature from the... Let her speak." The words came from the Helion alcove. The Helion representative was old, even by galactic standards. Her body was made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had watched species evolve and go extinct. And in all her long years, she had never seen anyone stand before the council with such calm defiance. "Let her speak," the Helion repeated. "I wish to hear what she will say." Velon hesitated. The Helion were neutral, but their opinion carried weight. To silence the human now would look like fear. And the Tassari never showed fear. "Very well," Velon said through clenched teeth. "Speak, human. Waste our time with your words. It will change nothing." President Park smiled. It was a small smile, polite and cold. "Thank you," she said. "I will try to be brief." She turned slowly, looking at each alcove in turn. 12 seats. 11 occupied by species who wanted humanity destroyed. 1 empty. A monument to genocide. "I have listened," Yuna began, "to 3 hours of speeches about how dangerous humanity is. I have heard us called aggressive, primitive, and unstable. I have heard that we expand too fast, build too many ships, and think too much of ourselves." She paused. "I find this very interesting, because I have also studied history." She pressed a button on her wrist. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing an image of a burning planet. "This is Venora Prime," Yuna said. 100,000 years ago. It was home to 12 billion Venori. They were artists and philosophers. They believed in peace. They refused to join the Tassari Dominion because they did not want to fight wars. She looked at Velon. The Tassari response was simple. They burned the planet. They hunted the survivors. They erased an entire species from existence. And then they kept an empty seat in this chamber to remind everyone what happens when you say no to the Tassari. The chamber was silent. No one moved. Yuna changed the display. A new image appeared, showing massive factory ships in orbit around a gray world. "This is the Morath system of Keldon," she continued. 40,000 years ago, the Morath conquered 6 peaceful species and forced them to work in their mines. Billions died. The survivors were genetically modified to be better slaves. This practice continued for 10,000 years before the Assembly declared it cultural tradition and looked the other way. Breenock, the Morath representative, made an angry sound. That was different. Those species were primitive. They needed guidance. Guidance, Yuna repeated. I see. And what about the Jurassic? She changed the display again. This time, it showed images of medical facilities filled with strange devices. The Jurassic still practice genetic harvesting, Yuna said. They take DNA from other species without consent. They experiment on prisoners. They have created biological weapons that can target specific races. Last year, a Jurassic scientist was caught trying to steal human genetic samples from one of our hospitals. The assembly did nothing. The Jurassic representative hissed but said nothing. Yuna let the images fade. She looked up at the council with eyes that held no fear. Every species in this room has committed crimes that would make humanity look like saints. The Feluri sterilized an entire planet because they wanted its resources. The Korvan wiped out their own subspecies in a civil war. The Nexar have been secretly funding pirates to attack shipping lanes for centuries. She spread her hands. And yet, you sit here in judgment of us. You call us dangerous. You call us a threat. Why? She answered her own question. Because in 300 years, humanity has grown from a single planet to an interstellar civilization. We have matched your technology. We have built ships that can fight your ships. We have proven that we will not stay small and quiet while you decide our fate. She stepped forward again. The guards raised their weapons, but Valan waved them back. He wanted to hear this. He wanted to remember every word so he could enjoy the humans' defeat even more. You are not afraid of what we have done, Yuna said softly. You are afraid of what we will become. In another 300 years, we might be stronger than all of you. In 1,000 years, we might lead this galaxy. And that terrifies you. Because you know that if our positions were reversed, you would show us no mercy. She turned to face the Helion. The Helion understand this. That is why they abstained. They know that strength is not evil. Growth is not a crime. The only crime is using power to crush those who have done nothing wrong. Finally, she turned back to High Arbiter Velan. Her voice was calm, but every word was sharp as a blade. You expect me to bow. You expect me to thank you for this judgment. You expect me to lead my people back to our single planet and wait quietly while you decide when to finish what you started. She shook her head slowly. I will not. Humanity will not. We did not climb out of our caves, survive our wars, cross the void between stars, and build a civilization among the galaxy's wonders just to kneel before tyrants who fear our potential. The chamber exploded with angry voices. Representatives shouted accusations. Guards moved forward. Velan rose from his throne with murder in his eyes. But Yuna Park stood perfectly still in the center of the storm. She had said what needed to be said. The galaxy had heard her words. Now came the next part of the plan. She raised one hand. The chamber slowly quieted. I have one more thing to say, she announced. And I want everyone in this galaxy to hear it. She looked directly at a small device in the corner of the room. A device that no one had noticed. A device that Hana Lim had activated the moment they entered the chamber. This session is being broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy, Yuna said. 800 billion beings are watching right now. They have heard your judgment. They have heard my response. And now, they will see what happens next. Velan's face twisted with rage. This is treason. This is an act of war. Guards, arrest her immediately. 20 armed Tazari soldiers surrounded the human delegation. General Do-Hun Shin gripped his cane. Ambassador Suji Moon touched her necklace. Admiral Taeho Kang stood ready. President Yuna Park did not move. She simply smiled. Admiral Bake, she said into her communication device. Directive 7. And across the galaxy, the wolves began to wake. The words, Directive 7, traveled across the stars at the speed of light. They reached ships that officially did not exist. They woke soldiers who had been waiting for years. They opened doors that had been hidden in the darkness of space. In the asteroid belt of the Kepler system, A mountain of rocks split open. Inside was a shipyard that had been built in secret over 15 years. 200 warships powered their engines for the first time. Their hulls were black, designed to absorb sensor signals. Their weapons were new designs that no alien had ever seen. In the frozen moon of Titan, underground bases came to life. 50,000 soldiers put on their armor and checked their weapons. They had trained in silence, away from alien eyes, preparing for a day that might never come. Now, it had come. In 17 different star systems, human colonies that had seemed peaceful revealed their true nature. Defense platforms rose from beneath the ground. Shield generators activated. Populations that had practiced evacuation drills for years moved to protected shelters. And in the dark space between galaxies, Fleet Admiral Minho Baek stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Hammer of Earth. Around him, 300 of the most powerful warships ever built by human hands waited for orders. All packs report ready, his tactical officer announced. Total fleet strength, 700 vessels. All weapons charged. All shields active. Minho nodded slowly. He was an old man who had spent his whole life preparing for this moment. Hold position, he said. Wait for the president's signal. We do not fire first. But if they attack, we show no mercy. Back on Station Orionis, the council chamber had become chaos. 20 Tassari guards surrounded President Yuna Park and her delegation. High Arbiter Velen screamed orders in his native language. The other representatives were standing, shouting, demanding to know what was happening. But the humans did not look afraid. They looked ready. General Dohun Shin pulled his ceremonial cane apart. The outer shell fell away, revealing a plasma rifle that hummed with power. Ambassador Suji Moon pressed her necklace, and a shimmering energy shield surrounded her body. Admiral Taeho Kang drew a compact pistol from inside his coat. The 12-person human delegation was suddenly armed and dangerous. Everyone stay calm, Yuna said, her voice cutting through the noise. We have no wish for violence, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Velen's face was twisted with rage. You brought weapons into the council chamber. You have violated every law of the assembly. Your species is finished. Our species, Yuna replied, is just getting started. Hana Lim's voice came through the station speakers. She had taken control of the communication systems during Velon's speech. And now, her words echoed through every corridor on Station Orionis. Attention all beings. This is a priority broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. What you are about to witness is being recorded for history. 800 billion people across thousands of planets stopped what they were doing. On farms and in cities, in ships and on stations, in homes and in governments, they watched the scene unfold. Yuna Park walked forward until she was standing directly in front of the Tassari guards. Their weapons pointed at her heart, but she did not flinch. High Arbiter Velen, she said loudly, so that everyone could hear. The containment doctrine is rejected. Humanity will not withdraw to Sol. We will not decommission our fleets. We will not accept chains that we did not forge. Velon laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. You have no choice. Our fleets outnumber yours 100 to 1. Your little rebellion will be crushed before it begins. Yuna nodded. Your fleets are large, but they are also spread across 1,000 systems. It would take months to gather them for an attack on human space. And during those months, we would not be idle. She pressed a button on her wrist. The holographic display in the center of the chamber changed again. Now, it showed a map of the galaxy with human space highlighted, and within that space, hundreds of small dots appeared. These are our hidden fleets, Yuna said. 700 warships that your spies never found. Ships with weapons that your scientists have never imagined. Ships crewed by soldiers who have trained their whole lives for this day. The chamber fell silent. Even Velon looked uncertain. We do not want war. Yuna continued. We never wanted war. We only wanted the right to grow in peace, to build our colonies, to raise our children, to reach for the stars without asking permission from those who fear our success. She turned to address not the council, but the billions watching across the galaxy. To the species of the assembly, you have been told that humanity is dangerous. Perhaps that is true. We are capable of terrible violence when threatened, but we are also capable of great friendship. We remember those who help us. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We keep our promises. She paused, letting her words sink in. The containment doctrine was never about safety. It was about control. The elder races fear any species that might challenge their power. They crushed the Venori. They enslaved the Morath's victims. They have kept the galaxy frozen in fear for 100,000 years. Her voice grew stronger. That ends today. Not with war, but with truth. The galaxy now knows what the Council really is. The galaxy now knows that there is another way. High Arbiter Velon had heard enough. Kill them, he ordered. Kill them all. The Tassari guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, General Dohun Shin moved. He was faster than anyone expected. His plasma rifle came up, aimed not at the guards, but at the ceiling high above. He pulled the trigger. The shot was bright blue. It screamed through the air and struck the metal far overhead. The sound was enormous. It echoed through the chamber like thunder. It echoed through every speaker on every planet watching the broadcast. Everyone froze. In that moment of silence, President Yuna Park spoke the words that would change history. That was a warning, she said. The next shot will not miss. Stand down your guards, Velon. This debate is over. For a long moment, no one moved. The guards looked at Velon. Velon looked at Yuna. The galaxy held its breath. Then, slowly, the Helion representative began to make a sound. It took the humans a moment to realize what it was. She was laughing. Well done, little human, the Helion said. Well done indeed. I believe the Arbiter understands that killing you now would only make you martyrs. Your message has already spread. The truth cannot be unspoken. Velon's hands trembled with rage. But he was not stupid. He could see the calculation in his mind. Kill the humans, and their hidden fleets would attack. Kill the humans, and the galaxy would see the Tassari murder a leader who had only asked for freedom. Kill the humans, and everything they said about the Council would be proven true. Stand down, Velon growled at his guards. This is not over, human. Your species has made a powerful enemy today. Yuna Park did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply nodded. Perhaps, she said. But we have also made something more important. We have made a choice. Humanity will not kneel. Humanity will not beg. And from this day forward, humanity will never again accept a fate that others have chosen for us. She turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Her delegation followed, weapons still ready but not aimed. The Tassari guards parted to let them pass. At the door, Yuna stopped. She looked back at the Council one last time. The first shot has been fired, she said. Not to start a war, but to end an argument. Humanity is not asking for permission to exist. We are simply informing you that we will. Then she walked out of the chamber and into history. The galaxy had heard the shot. And nothing would ever be the same. 1 year had passed since the shot that shook the galaxy. President Yuna Park stood on the balcony of the Global Parliament in New Seoul, looking up at the night sky. The stars were bright tonight, brighter than she remembered from her childhood. Maybe it was because she knew now that those stars held friends, not just enemies. Maybe it was because the weight she had carried for so long had finally grown lighter. Behind her, inside the Great Hall, delegates from a dozen species were waiting. Not Tassari delegates. Not members of the old council. These were representatives of species who had watched the broadcast that day, and seen something they had forgotten was possible. Hope. The first to reach out had been the Helion. 3 days after the confrontation, their ambassador had arrived at Earth with a simple message: "We would like to talk." What followed were weeks of careful negotiation, led by Ambassador Suji Moon, that resulted in the first true alliance between humanity and an elder race. Not a treaty of submission, a partnership of equals. The Morath came next. They had watched the recording of Yuna exposing their history of slavery, and instead of anger, they felt shame. A new generation of Morath leaders had long wanted to change their society's ways. The confrontation gave them the excuse they needed. They withdrew from the council and began the slow process of making peace with the species their ancestors had wronged. Others followed. The Thessan, who had always resented Tassari dominance, quietly opened trade negotiations with human colonies. The Veldari sent scientists to exchange knowledge. Even some of the Nexar, despite their government's official hostility, defected to human space seeking freedom. The Council of 12 did not collapse immediately. The Tassari were too powerful, too proud, to accept defeat so easily. High Arbiter Velen spent months trying to rally support for an attack on humanity. He promised rewards to those who joined him. He threatened punishment for those who refused. But the broadcast had done its work. Too many beings across the galaxy had seen the truth. Too many governments had realized that the containment doctrine could easily be turned against them one day. The fear that had held the Council together for 100,000 years was finally weaker than the desire for change. 6 months after the confrontation, the Tassari Dominion fractured. 3 of their most powerful generals, disgusted by Velen's failures, declared independence and formed their own factions. They were too busy fighting each other to threaten humanity. The great empire that had terrified the galaxy for so long was eating itself alive. Yuna watched a shuttle descend through the clouds toward the Parliament building. On board was someone she had been waiting to meet, someone whose name she had only learned after the confrontation, when the truth came flooding out along with everything else. Her name was Aaron, and she was the last Venori. The Tassari had not killed every member of that ancient species. They had kept one alive, frozen in a secret prison, as a trophy of their victory. When the Dominion fractured, Aaron's prison was discovered by one of the rebel factions. They had freed her and sent her to Earth, hoping to earn humanity's favor. The shuttle landed. Yuna walked down to meet it, flanked by Admiral Taeho Kang and General Dohun Shin. Both men were older now, their hair more gray, their faces more lined, but their eyes still held the same fire that had burned in that council chamber. The shuttle's door opened. A figure stepped out into the light. Aaron was small and thin, with silver skin and large eyes that reflected the stars. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone who was still learning how to live again. She had been asleep for 100,000 years, and she had woken to find that her entire species was gone. Yuna bowed. It was not a bow of submission, but of respect. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "You are the first Venori to walk free in 100,000 years. We are honored to receive you." Arin's large eyes studied Yuna's face. When she spoke, her voice was soft and musical, like wind through bells. "I watched the recording," she said. "I saw you speak my people's name in that chamber. I saw you remind the galaxy of what was done to us." She paused. "Why?" Yuna thought carefully before answering. "Because someone had to. Because the truth deserves to be spoken, even when it is uncomfortable. And because we believe that no species should be erased from history just because they were too peaceful to fight back." Tears formed in Aaron's eyes. They were silver, like her skin, and they fell slowly in Earth's gravity. "My people believed in peace," she whispered. "We thought that if we were kind enough, if we showed no threat, the universe would be kind to us. We were wrong. The universe is not kind. It is only fair when someone forces it to be." She reached out and took Yuna's hand. "I have slept for 100,000 years, Aaron said. I have lost everything and everyone I ever loved. But today, for the first time since I woke, I believe that it was worth surviving, because I have lived to see something that my people never imagined. A young species that refused to make our mistake. A people who stood up and said, "No." Yuna squeezed her hand gently. You are not alone anymore. Earth will be your home for as long as you want it. And if there are others like you, hidden somewhere in the galaxy, we will find them. We will bring them home. I promise you this. 1 month later, the Galactic Compact was born. It was not like the old council. There were no permanent seats for elder races. No tribute from younger species. No boundary lines to keep the weak in their place. Every member had one vote, regardless of age or power. Decisions required consensus, not domination. The signing ceremony was held on Station Orionis, in the same chamber where Yuna had faced the council. The Tassari thrones had been removed. In their place were simple chairs arranged in a circle where representatives from 30 species sat as equals. President Yuna Park did not sit in a place of honor. She sat in the circle like everyone else. Next to her was Aaron, who had been named the symbolic representative of all lost species, a reminder of why the compact was needed. Admiral Minho Baek was there, representing the human military that had made this moment possible. Ambassador Suji Moon was there, smiling at the success of negotiations she had worked on for months. General Do Hun Shin was there, his plasma rifle finally put away for good. Hana Lim was there, having returned to her role as an intelligence officer, though now she was tracking threats to peace rather than planning for war. And Admiral Taeho Kang was there, older than ever but proud to see what his sacrifice had helped build. The document they signed was simple. It promised mutual defense without demanding submission. It created trade agreements without exploitation. It established rules for colonization that protected both settlers and native species. It was everything the old council had pretended to be, but never was. When the ceremony was over, Yuna stood outside the chamber and looked at the stars through the station's windows. The Helion ambassador approached her. You have done something remarkable, the ancient being said. In 300 years, your species has changed the galaxy more than mine has in 300,000. Are you not afraid of what you have started? Yuna smiled. Of course I am afraid. Change is always frightening. But fear is not a reason to do nothing. It is only a reminder to be careful. And what will humanity do now? You have your freedom. You have your allies. What comes next? And. Two. Yuna looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, her daughter was attending the academy, training to be an explorer. Somewhere out there, human children were playing on worlds that their grandparents had never dreamed of. Somewhere out there, the future was waiting to be built. Now, she said, we grow. We explore. We learn. We make mistakes and fix them. We help those who need help. We remember those who came before us. And we make sure that what happened to the Venori never happens again. Not to anyone. Not ever. She turned to face the Helion directly. Humanity did not fire that shot to start a war. We fired it to end an era of fear and silence, an era where our voice was taken before we could speak. One come, waiting one come. She smiled again, and there was warmth in it now, not just steel. The new era has begun, and this time, everyone gets to speak. Far away, on the edges of explored space, a human explorer ship discovered a new world. It was green and blue, covered with forests and oceans, empty of intelligent life but perfect for settlement. The captain, a young woman named Jiwon Lee, looked at it through her viewport and felt tears in her eyes. What should we name it? Her first officer asked. Jiwon thought of President Park. She thought of the shot that had echoed across the stars. She thought of all the children who would grow up on this world, free and unafraid. New dawn, she said. "We'll call it New Dawn." And as the ship descended toward their new home, Jiwan smiled. The galaxy had heard the first shot. It had changed everything. And humanity was just getting started.